Hey y'all, and welcome back to Caitlyn's Corner. So this week we are celebrating Fishing Week in Tennessee, and it's free fishing week, and we have some fishing books, and this is called Fishing, a Mr. and Mrs. Green Adventure. So if you're ready, we're going to get started with fishing. Mr. Green reeled in a fish. Another one, he said. That makes 14. I love fishing. Mrs. Green loved fishing too, only not today. So how many fish does Mr. Green have? He said 14, but Mrs. Green isn't having fun fishing today. Today, her pail was empty, but Mrs. Green was full of determination. Let's switch places, she said. All the fish are on your side of the boat. Gladly, said Mr. Green. He liked fishing from either side. So Mrs. Green's going to switch sides. Maybe she'll have better luck. So they switched places. The boat wobbled back and forth. Mr. Green almost fell in. But then they cast their lines out into the water. Mrs. Green felt ready and steady. She would catch the next fish. So Mrs. Green was determined to catch a fish. But she didn't. Number 15, said Mr. Green, the biggest one yet. Mrs. Green had another idea. So now Mr. Green has 15 fish. Let's trade fishing poles, she said. Your pole is shiny and new. With pleasure, said Mr. Green. He liked fishing with any pole. Mrs. Green felt ready and steady and sure. So she thinks she's ready to catch a fish now after switching sides and switching poles. But not for long. Fan-fish-tastic, said Mr. Green. Number 16, 8 plus 8, 4 times 4, half of 32, that's 16. Oh, I do love fishing, he said. Mrs. Green was not sharing his enthusiasm. She felt frustrated and fishless. So now Mr. Green has 16 fish, and how many does Mrs. Green have? 0. She had one more idea. May I wear your hat? It must be lucky. Lucky, said Mr. Green. No, my lucky hat is at home. Then how? Asked Mrs. Green. How are you catching all those fish? She thinks Mr. Green's hat's lucky, but he said it's not. How's he catching all those fish and she's not catching any? Jelly beans, said Mr. Green. Gooey, chewy, yummy, gummy jelly beans. These fish love them. Jelly beans for fishing? Have you ever heard of that? I have a jelly bean system. Cinnamon on stormy days. Green apple on misty days. Bubble gum on cloudy days. Watermelon on windy days. Root beer on foggy days. And peppermint on sunny days. Like today. The peppermint on sunny days. And these licorice ones are good anytime. Jelly bean, asked Mrs. Green. Peppermint, please, said Mrs. Green. So she slipped the jelly bean onto her hook. She cast her line far out into the water. She prepared herself for the catch. So Mr. Green gave her a jelly bean. Is she going to catch a fish? No nibbles, no bites, no fish. Mr. Green was perplexed. His system wasn't working. Had the jelly bean slipped off? Was it the wrong flavor? Were the fish full? Then all of a sudden, Mrs. Green felt a tug and a jiggle, then a wiggle and a yank. So is it going to work? Jumping jelly beans, she shouted. I caught one. Number 17, said Mr. Green, and it's a beauty. Oh, I do love fishing, said Mrs. Green. I wonder. So Miss Green finally caught her fish. I wonder what we could catch with chocolate chip cookies. So they're wondering about chocolate chip cookies next. And that's the end of that one. So just to let you know, this is a fiction book, so please don't feed the fish jelly beans and chocolate chip cookies, because that's not necessarily good for them. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this fishing book and Mr. Green and Mrs. Green's adventure. So thank you for tuning in, and y'all have a good day. Bye.